Good afternoon. So in today's class, today's session, we are going to discuss the lab programs. So Java Programming Lab. In this, we have nearly 14 experiments. In this, we have nearly 14 experiments. So let us see the experiments. So first exercise. So exercise 1 is all about the data types, basics, data types and usage of the printf statements, system.out.println, and then some mathematical computations. So first exercise consists of 3 programs, ABC. So first program is about to print the uh, primitive data types of Java. So I have discussed the primitive data types as well as non-primitive data types. So most of the lab programs are already covered. The concepts are covered in the theory sessions. So let us discuss one by one. So first exercise is all about the basics one. So second exercise is about the operations and control flow. So second experiment consists of programs regarding the binary search. So in arrays, we have discussed the binary search and then bubble sort, merge sort, and then delete. So now we are discussing the string buffer, string builder, and string class. So in that, how to delete a string. So that is the program. So in the second experiment, second exercise consists of 4 programs. So all about the searching and sortings. Second exercise. Then third exercise. So third exercise is all about the classes and objects. So already how to declare a class, how to declare the method, all these things comes under this exercise. So illustration of classes as well as objects. So first program is to implement the class mechanisms. How do you declare a class? How do you declare a method like this? And then second program is implement the constructor. Already we have seen the what is meant by constructor. What is the syntax for it? So third exercise is all about the classes and objects. Next, fourth exercise is all about the methods. So first program is constructor overloading. Second program is method overloading. So all these things we have discussed. Constructor overloading as well as method overloading. Next one, fifth experiment is all about the inheritance. So we have so many types of inheritance. Single inheritance, to implement the single inheritance, to implement the multi-level inheritance, and then abstract classes, to implement the abstract classes. So this exercise is all about the inheritance. Next, exercise 6 also covered the inheritance concept, super keyword. So how implementation of the super keyword. First program, second program is implementation of the interface. So implementation of the interface. So already we know. Next one, seventh exercise is all about the exception handling. Seventh exercise is all about the exception handling. So in this, we are going to discuss we have to write the programs for exception handling mechanisms as well as multiple catch blocks. So next, exercise 8 is consist of runtime polymorphism. So implementation of the runtime polymorphism. So already this is also we have discussed. How do you implement the runtime polymorphism? By using the superclass object. By creating the superclass object, we can implement the runtime polymorphism. And then ninth exercise is all about the exceptions, user-defined exceptions. User-defined exceptions, throw, finally, and then Java built-in exceptions, and then creation of the user-defined exception. So this is all about the exceptions. Already seventh exercise is all about the exceptions. Next, exercise 10 and exercise 11. Exercise 10 and exercise 11. These two exercises are about the threads. So next chapter we will discuss about the threads. So these concepts comes under threads. Exercise 10 and exercise 11. Next, exercise 12. So exercise 12 consists of the packages, the programs regarding the packages, user defined package, as well as creation of the class path. All we will discuss in the exercise 12. So next one, exercise 13 and exercise 4. As per the syllabus, we have exercise 13 and exercise 14. So exercise 13 is all about the applets. Exercise 14 all about the event handling. So in theory, we don't have this applet and event handling in the syllabus. Applet and event handling not there in the syllabus. So for the time being, we will complete the Java programs up to exercise 12. If we have time, then we will try to complete the exercise 13 as well as exercise 14. So as per the syllabus, let us complete up to 12 exercises as per the syllabus. So 13 and 14 are out of syllabus. Applet concept is not covered in the theory. Event handling concept is also not covered in the theory. So let us complete the exercises up to 12 exercises. So this is the syllabus for lab. This is the syllabus for lab. So all of you maintain the observations as well as record. So by the I have already shared the lab manual in the Edmido group. So you can have the programs. So all of you execute the programs in your laptops or systems or mobiles. Execute and write the outputs in the observation. So all of you maintain the observations as well as record. Record is spiral binding or printed one. So observation is you have to write with your own handwriting. So this is all about the lab. So while coming to the college, you have to submit the observation as well as the record. So whenever you come to the college, you have to submit the assignment 1, assignment 2, and then lab record. So lab record also you have to submit. So you know how to make the record. Already in previous semester, I think you have done the spiral binding. So the Java programming also, we need a spiral binding with all the programs. So let us start the exercises. So first exercise. So let us see the program, aim of the program. Write a Java program to display default values of the primitive data types. Default values of the primitive data types of Java. Primitive data types means int, float, char, double, byte, boolean. So all these things are primitive data types. Char. All these things are primitive data types. So every data type has some default value. If you initialize the variable to that or not, by default it has some values. So let us display that one. Display the default values of primitive data types of Java. So primitive data types are int, float, char, double, byte, long, and then boolean. So these 8 are the primitive data types. Non-primitive data types means either class names or interface names. For example, string. So string is a class name. So string can be used as a data type also. So here our aim is to display the default values of the primitive data types. So let us check that one. So let us see the program here. So this is the class name. Default values is the class name. So this is the main class. So this is the main method, public static void main. So here I am going to declare the variables. Here I am going to declare the variables b, s, I, L, F, D. So I am declaring the variables of each primitive data type. So these are the available primitive data types in Java: byte, short, int, long. So these are the integer data types. So these are the integer data types. So these are the floating point data types, float and double. So these are the character data types, char. So this is the Boolean data type, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 primitive data types. So we have to print the default values for 8 primitive data types. So here I am declaring a variable, some variable b of type byte. So before that I am using the keyword static. So I am using the keyword static. So why we have used the keyword static here? What is the purpose of using the keyword static here? So already in the public static void main also we have used the static. So what is the purpose of static here? The value is constant for entire program. So that is okay. So when you declare a variable as static means, we can access that variable without creation of the objects. So here public static void main, we have used the public static void main. So it means that without any objects, without creation of any objects also, these class members can be accessed. So then in that purposes, we can use the static keyword. So here in this program, we have used the every data type as static data type, static variable. So it means that without the object also, these b values and s values, I values can be accessed. That means obj1 dot b, obj1 dot s, like that. We don't need any object. So directly we can access the values. So directly we can access the values. So that is the main purpose of using the keyword static. So I have declared all the variables. Next, in the main method, we are going to print that values. In main method, we are going to printing that values. So plus b, I am printing that value b, printing the value s, printing the value a. So I am printing all the values. So this is the program to print the default values of a data type. So I have created the variable of each data type. So here I am printing the b value. So here I have not assigned the value. So here I simply static byte b. Just I have declared the variable. So I have not initialized the value 90. Like that I have not initialized the value. Just I have declared the value and then I am printing that value. Plus b, I am printing that value. That means the variable is not yet initialized. The variable is not yet initialized. That means the variable b doesn't hold any value. So default value will be printed. So the program aim is to identify the default values of each data type, each primitive data types. So that is the aim of the program. So we have declared the variables and we are printing that variables, but the variables are not initialized, not assigned to any value. So that means default values will be printed. So let us check the default values for each primitive data type. Command prompt share అయిందా? Program command prompt parallel గా share అయినాయా? Okay, let us compile that program. Java C. So program name is, class name is default values. Default values.java. So in the Java file, cd space, I think lab. So check the path here. Check the path here. d:/java /lab/ default values. We have to be in that directory. So lab. So now I will compile the program Java C default values. So there is no errors. So let us run the program Java. So these are the default values of each data type. So byte default value is 0, short default value is 0, int default value is 0, long default value is 0. All these are integer type data types. Default value is 0. For float and double, 0, 0.0, 0, 0.0. For character, empty character. Empty is printed. For boolean, default value is false. For boolean, default value is false. So this is the program to illustrate the default values of each data type, each primitive data type. So is it okay? So let us move to the second program. So let us see the second program, what it is. Second program. So write a Java program that display the roots of the quadratic equation x square plus bx equal to 0 and calculate the discriminant value d and basing on the value of d, describe the nature of the root. So this is the program to illustrate the roots of finding out the roots of the quadratic equation. Roots of the quadratic equation. That means x square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So the roots are minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. That is, those values are the roots of the quadratic equation. So here d discriminant d means det value. We can call it as det. So square root of b square minus 4ac is called as determinant value, det value. So let us write the Java program for calculation of the quadratic equation. That is the second part. So let us see the program. So I am importing the IO package, import java.io.astic. I am importing the IO package. So the class name is quadratic. This is the main method, public static void main. It throws the IO exception. So I am just writing the exception. If there is any possibility of raising the error, that's why I'm writing this method throws this exception, IO exception. So here I am declaring the variables x1, x2, DIC means discriminant and ABC values. So these are the variables needed to find the roots of the quadratic equation. Ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So for this purpose, I am creating the object obj of type input stream reader. Generally, we will use the scanner class. To read the inputs from the keyboard, we will use the scanner class. So there are some more classes also to read the contents from the keyboard. So here class name is input stream reader. Input stream reader. Here object name is obj is equal to new, and then constructor is input stream reader. So within the braces we can use the system.in. So for the scanner class also we can use the system.in. So this is the syntax for creation of an object obj. Obj is an object. So next I am creating the another object br, buffer reader. So by using the buffer reader is also used to read the inputs. Buffer reader is a class. Buffer reader br is equal to new buffered reader obj. So here I am reading this obj value to this buffer reader class, buffer reader constructor. So buffer reader constructor is initialized with the object, So next I am going to print the ABC values. That means ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. In that we need a ABC values. So already we have declared the A, B, C values. A is equal to data type is double dot parse double. Suppose it is an integer means integer dot parse int. It is a double means double dot parse double. So within the braces here the object name is br dot read line. So br dot read line. And second variable also same br dot read line. So these are the syntax to read the inputs from the keyboard. So these are the syntaxes for read the inputs from the keyboard. So generally we have seen till now we have seen the scanner class. Same scanner class is used to read the inputs from the keyboard. So here we are introducing some more methods, some more classes, input stream reader class and then buffer reader class. So these are the classes to read the data from the keyboard. So how do you read? A is equal to, I am reading the A value as double dot parse double. So here the method is read line. So this method is applied to the object br dot read line. So up to this we will enter the ABC values. So next we are calculating the discriminant value. Discriminant value is equal to b square minus 4ac. That equal to b square minus 4ac. That is the discriminant value. So this is the syntax for it. So based on the value of this discriminant, the roots will be decided. Whether the roots are real or whether the roots are equal or unequal, that will be dependent on this discriminant value. So if the discriminant value is 0, then print the roots are real and equal. If you get the discriminant value as 0 means the roots are real and equal. Suppose if the roots are 2, so the equation has 2 roots. That means one root value is 2, second root value is also 2. That means both are equal. If the det value is 0, then the 2 roots are real and equal. So next I am calculating the root value x1. x1 is equal to x2. So we are saying that both the values are equal. Then minus b by 2a. So this is the formula to calculate the root value. Minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. If the det value is 0, we get this equation. Minus b by 2a. So I am printing the root values x1 and x2. So this is if the condition is disk value is 0. Else if the disk value is not 0, if the discriminant value is not 0, that means if the discriminant value is greater than 0, what happens? Then the roots are real but unequal. So here the root may be 2, another root may be 3. Roots are not equal here. Then we will calculate the first root and second root as x1 and x2. x1 is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of square root. Square root means math.sqrt. square root of b square minus 4ac. B square minus 4ac means disk by 2a by 2a. This is the root 1. This is the second root, minus b plus or minus. So I think here instead of plus we get the minus. I think here we will have the minus. So why? Because in the formula we have minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. This is the plus, this is the minus. Second root is minus. So then we will get the, we are going to print the values. So here we are printing the root 1 value, root 2 value. So else, if it is 0 or greater than 0, so else any of the condition, any of this case, then the roots are imaginary. Then we will get the imaginary roots. So that is the program. So this is the program. So any doubts on this? So here the concept is to find out the roots. So here the new part is this one. The new part is this one. So instead of this, we can use the scanner class also. So just use the scanner class, scanner, object name is obj1 is equal to new scanner of system.in. Then if you want to read the a value means a is equal to a is equal to that object name is obj dot next int. Obj dot, suppose it is int means next int, it is double means next double. Next double, braces close. So instead of this, we can have the scanner class also. So this read line and parse double. So all these things are discussed in the packages. All these things are discussed in the packages. So this read line function, why we have used the read line instead of next double? Why? Because read line is a method which is used to implement on the object only, BR, which is used to implement on the object only, BR. It cannot be implemented on any other things. It can be implemented on BR. So any doubts on this? One minute. So here parse double. So these things we have discussed in the packages. So while we are discussing the wrapper classes. So wrapper classes we have used this one. Parse double. That means this double and this double are not equal. So this is the data type. So this is not a data type. So let us see this one. So this is the data type. So this double is not a data type. So this is the wrapper class. So this is the wrapper class. That means conversion of this data type to an object. Conversion of a data type to an object. That is called wrapper class purpose, or reverse one. Conversion of the object to a variable. So that can be possible by using the wrapper classes. So here double is a wrapper class. Double dot parse double. That means anything other than the double data type values are converted into the double value. That we will use the parse double. Parse double is a method. Here br.readline is a method to read the input from the keyboard. So this is the simple program to illustrate the find out the roots of the quadratic equation. So if you don't understand this one, you can have the scanner class also. You can simply use the scanner class. So this is the second program. So let us see the output for it. Just see, program name is quadratic.java. So program is compiled. Enter ABC values. A value is 2, B value is 3, C value is 6. Then we are getting the roots are imaginary. Suppose let us give another input 0, 0, 6. So if you give the A value as 0, B value as 0, then roots are real and equal. Real and equal. But we are getting the nan. Nan means infinite things. Where 1, 2, 3. Then roots are imaginary. So let us give the values as 2, 2, 6, 3. So let us see the output. Roots are real and unequal. So here one root value is minus 0.63, another root value is minus 0.63. So let us so these are the outputs. So this is the program to illustrate the roots of the quadratic equation. So next, third one. So here see the problem. So 5 bikers compete in a race such that they drive at a constant speed, which may or may not be the same. That means here there are 5 racers. Racer 1, Racer 2, Racer 3, Racer 4, Racer 5. So we have 5 racers, 5 bike racers. So they are racing for some championship. So here we are going to write the program for that. So here to qualify the race, in order to qualify the race, the speed of the racer must be more than the average speed of the all 5 racers. Suppose so racer 1. So racer 1 is going with the speed 70 kilometers per hour. So racer 2 is going with the speed 40 kilometers per hour. Likewise, racer 3 is going with a speed 45 kilometers per hour. And then racer 4 driving with a speed of 66 kilometers per hour. Likewise, racer 5 is competing with the 90 kilometers per hour. So these are the speeds of the racers. So here the condition is, in order to qualify for the final round, the condition is the speed of a racer must be more than the average speed of the 5 racers. So here we have to check the average speed of the 5 racers. That means R1 plus R2 plus R3 plus R4 plus R5 by 5. Average means by 5. 5 racers, 5 speeds. So by 5. If you calculate the by 5 means we will get some value. So in order to qualify that, every racer must be, the speed of the racer must be greater than or equal to greater than the that average speed. Then only the racers will qualify for the final round. So this is the problem. This is the problem we have to solve. Then take as input the speed of the each racer and print back the speed of the qualifying racers. So the aim is to these values 70, 40, 45, all these values are to be read by the keyboard. And then we have to print the which racers are qualified for the final round. Which racers are qualified for the final round. Here the condition is average speed is greater than the each racer speed is greater than the average speed. Then the racer will qualify for the final round. So this is the description of the problem. So let us find the solution for it. Let us see the program. So here, so I am importing some packages, IO package, util package. So this is the class name race1, public static void main. So this is the main class, and I am throwing some exception throws IO exception. So whenever you import the IO package, so there is a possibility of the IO exception. So it's preferably to throw this IO exception. It's preferably to throw the IO exception. So I have used the keyword throws and then that expression. So here I am declaring some variables, I value and some flag value. I am initializing the flag value as 0 and then float average value. So we are calculating the average. We need a average speeds. So initial average is 0. And then I am creating an object DIS. DIS is an object of type data input stream. So this is also another class which is used to read the data from the keyboards, data input stream. New, the constructor is data input stream. The object passed is system.in. System is a class name, in is a object name. So in this data input stream class, data input stream is a here constructor. So we're passing the some object value in. That means whatever the value we have given through the keyboard is taken by the data input stream constructor. So here I am printing that enter the speed of the 5 races. So enter the speed of the 5 races. So for this I am declaring a array. I am using an array. So array name is A. Array size is 5. So this is the syntax for declaration of an array. So here, so we have 5 races. So 5 racer speeds are stored in the array. For each racer, so we can have the input scan next int object. For each racer, so we can write the 5 statements. So instead of that, we can store the all 5 speeds in a array. That's why I have used the array here. So here I am going to use the for loop for I is equal to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. So here I am going to read the values. Here I am going to read the values. So a of I is equal to integer dot parseInt. So I am going to read the integer values. So in the braces object dis dot read line. So this is the syntax to read the data from the keyboard. Also, I am initializing the average value. AVG is equal to AVG dot A of I. So I have to calculate the average value. That's why initially I have given the average as 0. So 0 plus that value, A of 0 value. Next one, 0 plus A of I value plus A of I plus 1 value. I value 0, A of 0 value. Next A of 1 value, A of 2 value, up to A of 4 values. All these 4 values are added and stored in the AVG. Stored in the AVG. So this is the for loop to read the inputs from the keyboard. So next, see what I am going to do. So next I have written some Just I am printing. So now I have read the data from the keyboard. Now I am going to print the speeds. The speeds of the 5 racers are follows. Just I am printing the speeds. For I is equal to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. I am printing the speeds. System.out.println. The speed of racer number. I am giving the number. Racer I. I means here 0. So you will confuse racer 0, racer 1. Generally, we will have the racer 1, racer 2, racer 3 like that. That's why I have used the I plus 1. I value is 0, 0 plus 1, 1. That means it will print the racer 1. So racer 1 value as A of 0. Whatever the data stored in the A of 0, that will be the speed of the racer 1. Next racer 2. So just I am printing the speeds of the each racer. And then I am checking some condition here. A of I not equal to A of I plus 1. That means if the speeds of the two racers are same, if the speeds of the two racers are same or not, we are checking. That means suppose if we have the A of 0, A of 0 means first racer speed is 56, and then A of 1, second racer speed is also 56. So here this condition is we are checking. So whether the two racer speed is equal or not. If the A of 0 is equal to 56, A of 1 equal to 56. If the two racers values are not equal, if the two racer speeds are not equal, then set the flag value as 1. If this condition fails, make the flag value as 1. Then immediately break. Break means it will come out of, so it will come out of this loop. It will come out of this loop. It will come out of this loop. So the control will not come to if statement. So control will goes to next statement after this block. After this block, next statement after this block. So next I am checking the condition. If flag value not equal to 0, if the flag value is not equal to 0, do some operations. That means speeds of the racers are not equal, then do the following things. If the speeds are equal, then we will print the sum statements. So here actually no two bikers can have the same speed at a time. So the speed may differ. If the speeds are same, then we will print the all the racers are at the same speed. All the racers are at this same speed. There is no winner. Like that we can write. So that's why we have calculated the flag value. This is the purpose of calculating the flag value. Initially flag value is 0. We are checking that if the flag value is 0 or not. If the flag value is not 0, then do these things. If the flag value is not 0, then perform the following tasks. So first thing is we have to find the average. First thing is we have to find the average. Average is equal to AVGA by 5. We have 5 races by 5. So already AVG is calculated. All plus 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 plus. AVG plus equal to A of I. We have calculated that one. Next I am printing the average value. So if the condition is, what is the qualification condition is? If the speed of the racer is greater than the average value. If the speed of the racer is greater than the average value, then he is qualified for the race. Then I am printing that he is qualified for the race. So the winner of the racer is I plus 1. The winner of the racer is I plus 1. I plus 1 means 0 means racer 0 means racer 1. That's why I have used the I plus 1. So this is the condition. So this has to be repeated for 5 times. This has to be repeated for 5 times. That means 5 racers are there. You have to check all the 5 racers. So else, if the flag is not set to 0, then if the flag value is 0, then This is the statements to be printed. So this is the program to illustrate the bikers speeds. So here the aim is to find out the who who are the racers qualified for the final round. So here the qualification condition is the racer must have the more than the average speed of the all the races. If the racer has the more than average of the all the racer speed, then he will qualify for the race. So for this purpose, we have written the program. So let us check the output. Java C program name is race1.java. So there is no error, some warnings. So enter the speed of the 5 races: 20, 30, 40, 15, 18. So these are the speeds I have entered. I am printing the speeds of each racer. The speed of racer 1 is 20, racer 2 is 30. I am printing that and I am calculating the average value. So here I am calculating the average value. Next, the winner of the racer is player 2 and player 3. That means the speed is greater than the 24.6. So 24.6 greater than is player 2 as well as player 3. That we are printing. So that is the program. We have to print the racers details. So let us see what happens when you give the same speeds. Twenty, 20, 10, 15, 28, etc. So in this case also you get the player 1, player 2, player 5 has qualified the race. So let us check if you give the same speeds 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So here I have given the all the speeds are 10. Then all the racers are at the same speed. No one will be the winner. So I have written some printf statement. So this is the program for bikers problem. So any doubts? So this is the first exercise. So this is the first exercise. So in this the first program is default values. Second is quadratic equation. Third one is bikers problem. So these three programs comes under the exercise 1. So we have completed the exercise 1. So let us see the exercise 2. So exercise 2 is all about the binary search. Write a Java program for binary search, Java program for bubble sort, Java program for merge sort, and then Java program for deletion of the a string from a string buffer. So these programs will come under exercise 2. So exercise 2 will be explained by the lateral entry 8. Are you there? So I will make you as co-host so you can present it. Okay, parledu. So you can explain.
So this is the program for to perform binary search. To perform binary search, the condition is the array is sorted in ascending order. So we have declared the main class binary, and we import the IO package and all the classes in the IO package. Here we declare the variables I, j, n, key, l, h, m. Here I is key is whatever the value we need to search. L is lower bound, m is mid value, h is upper bound. Data input stream, it is a predefined class. It is used to read the data. This is the syntax to create an object. This phrase int function is used to convert the string data type into integer data type. Whenever we read input by using this class, the compiler treats that it is a string. So this is used to convert the string into integer. This function is used to convert the, read the characters in a stream of data. There are 3 conditions in performing binary search. First of all, this is the example array. I will explain. So I initialize an array with the length n. This is the statement for understandable purpose, and this is used to read the inputs to the array. Here lower bound is assigned to 0 and higher bound is n minus 1. Next we need to find the mid value. Mid value is equal to lower bound plus higher bound by 2. We take while loop to execute we take while loop to perform the condition for repeating purpose. Here we have 3 conditions. One is our search element is equal to key value, mid value. Our search element is greater than mid value, and our search element is less than mid value. If the search element is equal to mid value, we write a print statement, key is not found at a position. If the mid value is greater than the key value, we need to check the right subarray, and we need to change the lower bound to the mid plus 1 value. If the mid value is greater than the key value, we need to check the left subarray. If the key is not found, This is the print statement. The key is not found. This is the output for the program. Is this understandable? Are you understand?
So you can move to the next program.
Next is bubble sort. Here we declare a main class and we declare some variables. This is predefined class which is used to read input from the user. Here the array is initialized. Next, this is the statement for understandable purpose. Next, this for loop is used to take the read the inputs into the array, and this for loop is used to this for loop is used to take the input from the user, and this for loop is used to array displays before sorting. Here we are using two loops, inner loop and outer loop. The outer loop is used to how many times the loop will repeat. It is used to the elements of the array. Next, the inner loop is used to comparing the values. Here the elements, I need to sort these elements into ascending order. So first the condition is checked. Here we have 5 elements. The loop will execute only n minus 1 times. The last element is sorted automatically. Here we have 4 elements. So here I is equal to 4. Sorry, I is equal to 0. 0 is less than 4. So the condition is 2. So that it enters into inner loop. In this inner loop, I is equal to 0. This inner loop is used to comparison purpose. So first 0th element is compared with 4, first index element. So A of I is
So stop sharing your screen. I will explain, and third program we will explain. Let us complete. I will complete this.
okay.
So here we are going to write the Java program for the bubble sat. So already for bubble sat, we need a array. We are giving the inputs to this array a of I, and then the logic here is it will compare the two elements. Suppose if you have the string, if you have the array elements are like this, 10, 3, 6, 33, and 77. So if this is the elements to be sorted, this is the input array, then this array has to be sorted in a ascending order. So here for this purpose, the logic here is this one. So here the logic is this one. So here we are using the two for loops. So here we are using the two for loops. One is I, second one is j. So the logic here is, suppose take the string as like this: 10, 20, 5, 15, 8, 36. So this is the array. So here what we are going to do is, here we have to compare the two elements. Here we have to compare the 10 with 12. We have to compare the 10 with 12. So to compare, to hold the values of the first array, we will use the I. To hold this one, we will use the j value. That means, see here, for I is equal to 0. I is equal to 0 means first element. Next iteration is j is equal to I plus 1. I value is 0 here. 0 means this position. 0 plus 1, 1 means next position. So next two elements are compared. Next two elements are compared. So the comparison is this one. To hold the first element and the second element, we will use the two for loops. I for first element, j for next element. So same will be repeated up to the less than n. If the n value, I value is less than n means how many elements you will give? You will give 10 means I less than 10. So every time the I values will be incremented. That means for first iteration, these two are compared. For next iteration, these two are compared. 20 and 5 are compared. Next iteration, 5 and 15 are compared. Why? Because I value is every time becoming incrementing by 1. Initially, I value is 0 here. Next, after this swapping performed, its I values becomes 1. That means I value is 1 here, 20. I value marks the 20. Then next, j is equal to I plus 1. Then j is equal to I plus 1 means 5. So 20 and 5 are compared. So here comparison is, if a of I greater than a of j. If a of I greater than a of j, then perform swapping. If a of I greater than a of j, that means first element is greater than second element, simply swap these two numbers. Simply swap these two numbers. 25. 20 is the first number, 5 is the second number. If the 20 greater than 5, that is true. 20 greater than 5 is true. That means we have to swap the numbers. We need an ascending order. We need an ascending order. That means we have to swap the numbers. So that is the condition. A of I greater than a of j. Then this is the logic for. So this is the logic for swapping. Temp equal to a. Temp equal to a is equal to b. B is equal to temp. This is the simple logic to swap the two numbers. So this is the logic to swap the numbers. Temp is equal to a of I is equal to a of j is equal to temp. Then the numbers are swapped. So 20 is placed in the 5th position, 5 is placed in the 20th position, 20th place. So that is swapping. So that is the bubble sort. Bubble sort. So this is one bubble, this is second bubble. So first bubble is compared with the second bubble. If the first bubble is more than the second bubble, then these bubbles are exchanged. So that is the concept of bubble sort. So this is the logic. So this is the logic. That's why we have taken the two for loops. So one loop is to maintain the first element. Second loop is to maintain the second element. So next condition, if condition is condition. So comparison. Comparison means to compare the two entities. First entity is I, second entity is j. We are comparing the I value and j value. I value is position value and j values. And we're comparing. If this is true, we are performing swapping. If it is not true, then again repeat the same thing. So this is the program to sort the given array by using the bubble sort. We need n-1 comparisons. If you have 10 elements, means we need 10-1 comparisons. So this is the it takes most time complexity. That's why so many, other than this bubble sort, so many sorting techniques are come into the picture. So let us execute this program. Java C program name is sort.java. Program is compiled with some warnings. This is the output. Enter the n value. Suppose I want to enter the 10 elements. Enter the array elements. Array elements 12, 23, 5, 4, 8, 79, 55, 6, 33, 2, 5, 8. So these are the elements I have entered. So I elements after the sorting 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, 23, 33, 55, 79, 258. So all these are in ascending order. All the elements are sorted. So the logic is this one. The logic is this one. Two for loops within that one if class. So same logic can be used in the C programming also, C++ also. Same thing, same logic. So in Java also same thing. So this is the program to illustrate the binary bubble sort. So already we have seen the binary search. Binary search means we have to search the elements in a given array. So here the condition is if you want to perform the binary search, the predefined condition is all the array elements are in sorted order. If the array elements are in the sorted order, then only binary search can be applied. So binary search can be applied only on a sorted array. So here the binary search, it will compare the same thing. It will compare the key value with the element value. Key value with the element. If the key is equal to that element, the element is found at that position. If the key value is not equal to that position, then it will repeat up to the element is found. If you get the end of the loop means end of the array means all the elements are compared, but the key value is not matched with any of these things. Then the key is not found at some position. Key is not found. So like that we can perform binary search as well as bubble sort. So next one, we will see the merge sort. Already for quick sort, we have the method called sort. Sort is a method. Sort is a predefined method in util package. We can use that method sort. So sort means all the elements will be sorted. So there is another sorting technique, that is merge sort. So merge sort is also a efficient sorting technique. So it is follows the divide and conquer method. It follows the divide and conquer method. So already you know the logic. You know the logic, and we have seen in data structures also. I think these programs will come. So here the concept is, suppose if you have the array elements are like this, 10, 20, 30, 5, 15, 2, 8, 25. So these are the array elements. So here the concept is, in the merge sort, we can divide the array into two parts. We can divide the array and we can merge that array. We can divide the array and we can merge that array. So first step is, first count the number of elements. So here first step is count the number of elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 elements are there. The array size is 8. Then we have to divide the array into two parts. Array into two parts. We will divide the array into two parts. So this is the first step. We have to identify the size of the array, and then we will divide the entire array into the two parts. So then what we will do is, in these two parts, we can divide this 4 elements into the another division. We will go for the division. We will divide the entire array into the some divisions. We will divide the array. This is the array 1, sub-array 1, sub-array 2. So in the next case, what we will get is 10, 20, 30, 5, 15, 2, 8, 25. So in the next step, what we will do is, so we will divide this is 10, 20, 35. This is an array. So this array itself divided in the next step. So 4 elements are there. So 4 elements means first 2 elements are in one array, second 2 elements are in one array. So same thing, this can be all second array also subdivided 15 and 2, 8 and 25 subdivided. Next, this is an array. 10 and 20 is an subarray, 30 and 5 is an subarray, 15, 2 is an subarray, 18, 25 is an subarray. Next, it is further divided into the parts, 10 and 20. 2 elements are there. So 2 elements can be divided into 2 arrays. 2 elements means by 2. So 10 is one array, 20 is one array. Next 30 is one array, 30 is this array is divided. So this array is divided. So then 10 is an element, 10 is a single element, 20 is a single element, 30 is single element, 5 is a single element. So further divided. So here we will get each element as like this: 10, 20, 30, 5, 15, 2, 8, 25. So this is all about the dividing. So up to this, we can divide the array. Divide and conquer. So conquering means merging. So this is the merge sort. That means here we will merge these 2 arrays. We will merge these 2 arrays. And then here we will merge these 2 arrays. We will merge these 2 arrays. And then we will merge these 2 arrays. So how do you merge? So the merging can also have some comparison. This first element is less than the second element. This first element is less than the second element. It will be sorted order. Suppose it has the 10. It has the 20. That means no swapping will be done. No swapping will be done. Then this array is 10, 20. 10, 20. Suppose here 30 and 5. 30 and 5. Here 30. So here 30. Here 5. So in the merging process, what we will do is we will compare 30 with the 5. 30 is greater than the 5. That means we have to swap the numbers. 5, 30. So same thing can be repeated here. Same thing can be repeated here. Then now we will merge these 2 things. Now we will merge these 2 things. We will get some array. Next we will merge these 2 things. 2 arrays. We will get something. In the next step, we will merge these 2 arrays. We will merge these 2 arrays. Then we will get the sorted array. Then we will get the sorted array. So here for each merging, we will compare the things less than or greater than. For each merging, we can perform some comparisons. So this is the merge sort. So first of all, we will divide and then we will make the mergings. First phase is we will divide the entire elements, entire array into a singleton element. Then we will merge the singleton array with the corresponding array. So this is all about the merge sort. Let us see the program. So see here, same merge sort class. I'm importing some package, some scanner class to read the inputs, main class, and this is the main method. So where is the main method? So this is the main method. And then for merging, I am using the separate method. For merging, I am using the separate method, that is sort. For merge sorting, I am defining some method. So that logic is not included in the main method. So here this method has the input of array A and the index values, lower bound and upper bound. So I am calculating the n value, that is high minus low. So array index starts with 0. Suppose array elements are 10 means 10 minus 0, 10. That means array size is n. So n is refers the array size. If the array size is less than 1, return empty string. Array size is less than 1. That means array has single element. That means there is no need to sort the things. That's why it is written. Then we are calculating the mid value. Mid value is equal to low plus n by 2. That means we have to divide the array. We have to divide the array. That's why we are calculating the mid value. Then I am calling the method. Then I am calling the method sort a comma low comma mid. That means this is subdivided. Array is subdivided into two arrays. So on these two arrays, sorting method is applied. On this array, sorting method is applied. That means this is repeated again. This is repeated again. That means this is a recursion. The sort method is repeated again on this array. Then this array is divided. This is repeated. This is repeated. So next I am defining some temporary array temp. That size is n. So here I am defining the low value as I, mid value as j, and defining the k value. This loop will be repeated up to the array size. So if I is equal to mid, temp of k is equal to a of j plus plus, a of j plus 1. That means if the I value is mid value. So here I value is mid value. So here I value is mid value, then the array temp of k value means 0. So temp of 0 is equal to a of j plus 1. So a of j plus 1 means j value is mid value, mid plus 1 value. That means here we are dividing the array. That means this is an array, this is an array, this is an array. We are dividing the entire arrays. Here we are comparing the I values with the mid value. Suppose this is the mid value mean. If the mid value is equal to I, then what we are going to do is we are creating this temporary array. We are storing the elements in the temporary array. So temp of 0, the first position value is a of j plus 1. J plus 1 means j value is the mid value. Mid plus 1. Mid plus 1 means this array. If j is equal to high means high means where j is equal to high means then temp of k value is equal to I plus 1. If a of j less than a of I means, so the temp of 0 value will be a of j plus 1. Else other than these cases, the temp of 0 will be a of I plus 1. So here we are assigning the temporary values to the array. So after performing all the after filling the temporary array, then we are copying that array to the original array, sorted array. So that is the logic of the method. And then in the main method, we are going to create some objects. We are going to create the object scan, and then we are going to print some statement method, and then enter the number of integer elements by using this is the syntax to scan the input from the keyboard. Scan dot object name is scan dot next int. Next I am declaring some array arr, and I am printing the array elements. And then I am calling the sort method. I am invoking the sort method. So for this, the inputs are array and then lower index and higher index value, low value and high value. Then I am printing after the performing the sorting, I am printing the sorted array for I is equal to 0, and I am printing the array value. So this is the syntax this is the logic for mid sort. So now you can continue the string buffer, deletion of the string buffer.
String buffer class is used to create mutable strings. So we can modify the strings. This is the main class. And this is the object for the string buffer class. This is predefined method delete. This is low index value and this is high index value. So the delete method is used to remove some text from the string based on the index values. From starting index to ending index -1 value, the string is removed. Next is delete char. This is used to delete one character from the string. So let us see the output. So here zero index, one index, two index, three index, four index values are deleted, and the space also deleted. Next, in a delete char method, the character at zero index is deleted.
So, okay. So this is the second exercise. So in the second exercise, we have seen the four programs. We have seen the four programs. First one is a binary search, and second one is bubble sort, and third one is merge sort, and then fourth one is the deletion of a string content. Suppose if you give the hello world as a string, means if you want to delete that character, some characters in that, we have the method delete. We have the method delete under the class string buffer. So that we have seen. So next one, third exercise, exercise 3. So exercise 3. So exercise 3 all about the classes and objects. So here first program aim is write a Java program to implement the class mechanism. So that means to implement the class mechanism. That means how do you create a class? How do you create the class members? So that is create a class, methods, and invoke them inside the main method. So let us see that one. And then along with this, write a Java program to implement the constructor. So let us complete the third exercise. So let us see this one. So this is the program to illustrate the classes. So already we have discussed while discussing the classes. So let us see the programs once again. So here I am importing the IO packages. Here I am here I am going to display the area of the circle area. So that's why I have defined the class area. Here I have defined the class area. In this I am defining the variable A. Under this I am defining the method double area, which will have the parameter as radius. So here I am calculating the area as A. Already declared the A value. A is equal to 3.14 pi r square. So area of the circle is pi r square. So I am returning the A value. So the return type is double. I am returning the A value. So this is the area class. So this is the class area. So here I have defined the class. Here I have defined the class. In this class, we have some class members. So these are the class members. So let us check this. So this is the class. This is the class I have defined. So these are the class members. So these are the class members. Variables and methods. Variables and methods. I have declared the variable. I have defined the method. So the class consists of class members. Class members are nothing but a variable and then method. I have defined the method. So this is the one class I have defined. And then for driver class, for main class, I am defining the another class, circle. So this is the main class. So here, this is the main method, public static void main. So I have used the IO package. That means there may be a chance of IO exception. That's why I have thrown the IO exception. So here I am creating the object OB of type area. So class name is area. So new area. So this is the syntax for creation of an object of type area. And then I am using the data input stream, and the object is TIS. I am creating another object to read the radius value from the keyboard. New constructor is data input stream. For this, I'm passing the parameter as system.in. Then I am going to enter the radius value. So radius, I have declared the variable double R is equal to integer.parseInt. Integer.parseInt. Uh, that means here I am using the wrapper class for int. Wrapper class for int is integer.parseInt. That means the string value is converted into the either double or integer. Suppose here I have defined the integer, means the value is converted into the integer value. Then the method is this dot readline. This is an object, readline is a method. So by this we can read the method, or we can use the scanner class also, or simply we can give the R is equal to 10 also. That is also accepted. So here I am defining the area ob dot area of R. So this R value is read from the input. So here I am invoking the method area. So this method area is defined in the class area. That's why I am creating the object for this area. So the class name is area. So for this I am creating the object for area. So here I am creating the object for area. Why? Because in order to access this class member, in order to access this method area, so area ob dot area. So I am passing the radius value. So we need a input double R. I am passing the value. Then I am printing the area. So this is how you can access the, this is how you can create the classes, as well as you can declare the class members, as well as you can access the class members. So this is the simple program to illustrate the usage of classes. So let us see the output. Java C circle.java. So some notifications. Let us run the program. So enter the radius of the circle. Radius of the circle is 5. The area of the circle is 78.5 pi r square. So we have given the 5 value from the keyboard. We have given the 5 value from the keyboard. For this, we have written this line. For this is the syntax. This line has to be written. Integer.parseInt. So this is the some simple program to illustrate the classes. And then second program is constructor, to illustrate the concept of constructors. So the main purpose of constructors are to initialize the values. To initialize the values, generally we will use the constructors. So let us see one program. So this is the program to illustrate the concept of the constructors. So already we have seen the so many types of constructors in the classes, theory classes. So let us see this type. So I am importing some package IO. I am defining some class A, class name is A, and then this is the constructor. This is the constructor. Class name and constructor name should be same. So in this constructor, I am passing the variables A comma B, int A comma int B. Then I am declaring the some variable C. I am calculating the C is equal to A into B. I am calculating some computation and I am printing the C value. So I am closing this constructor. I am closing the class. So this is one class. Next, I am defining the another class B. So this is the main method. Throws I by exception. This is the main method. So here I am creating the object for this A. That means in order to access the class members, we have to create an object. So this is an object OB for the class A is equal to A. Here I am passing the variables. So this is the constructor. So here I am passing the values 10 and 20. I am initializing this constructor values as 10 and 20. I will pass this values 10 and 20. We will get the output 10 into 20, 200. C is equal to A into B. We will get the 200. So let us see the output. So the C value is 200. So this is how you can use the constructors. So this is the some usage of the constructor. So this is the third exercise. So next one, method overloading as well as the constructor overloading. So fourth exercise is all about the methods. So here we are going to implement the constructor overloading as well as the method overloading. Already we have seen the examples in the classes. So let us see one more time. Constructor overloading as well as method overloading. So let us see the constructor overloading first. So constructor overloading means the constructor has the same name, but the different parameter list. The constructor has the same name, but the signature is different. Parameter list is different. So that type of constructors are known as, that mechanism is known as constructor overloading. Let us see the examples here. Suppose A is a constructor. Here A is also a constructor. So here A is also a constructor. Here we have defined the three constructors. Here we have defined the three constructors. So first constructor, I have passed the single value A. In the second constructor, I am passing the AB, two values. In the third constructor, I am passing the three variables, three parameters, three different parameters. So it means that we are using the same constructor name. We are using the same constructor name. So here the constructor name is A, but the parameter list is different. Parameter list is different. So this concept is known as constructor overloading. So same constructor name is used in the three different situations. Same constructor name is used in the three different situations. So that is constructor overloading. So let us see the program. So here in this constructor A, I am going to print the A into A. The second constructor, I am going to print the A into B. Third constructor, I am going to print the A into B into C. So here, so in the second constructor, I have used the super method. Super method. Why? Because same name we are using, same constructor name we are using. That means there should be some reference to the compiler. The compiler identifies that both the constructors has same name. So which constructor has to execute? So most recent one will be displayed. So in order to identify the compiler that, so this is the super method. That means previously defined one is a super method. So there is a same name with the constructor. Thus the constructor has, there is another constructor with the same name. The compiler will identify that there is a constructor with the same name. So here also I have used the super. So it means while executing of the statement, compiler will identify that there is a another constructor. Here it will identify it has some super. There is a another constructor. Compiler will identify that. In order to differentiate these things, you can use the super keyword, super method. In the method overloading also, you can use the super method, super keyword. So in the program, so this is the main. So main class, main method, and then I am creating the objects of the class A, and then constructor. First constructor I am passing the value 10. In the second constructor I am passing the values, 2 values. I have to pass the 2 values. In the third constructor I have to pass the 3 values. This is how you can pass the constructor. Same constructor name is same, but the parameter list is different. So these type of things are known as constructor overloading. The constructor has same name, but the parameter list is different. So those type of constructors are known as, the mechanism is known as constructor overloading. So let us see the output for it. Java C constructor overloading .java. So program compile. So this is the output. So a value is 10 means 10 into 10, 100 is printed. Next constructor is we have passed the 10 value and 2 value. 10 into 2, 20 will be displayed. In the third constructor, we have passed the 10, 2 and 50 values. That means 50, 10 into 2, 20, 20 into 5, 50,000. That will be displayed. So this is the usage of the constructors, constructor overloading. So let us see the method overloading also. Let us see the method overloading. So method overloading, that means the method has the same name here. In previous example, constructor has the same name. So here the method has the same name. So method has the same name, but the signature is different. The parameter list is different. Here one parameter, here 2 parameter, here 1 parameter, but the data type is different. Here int, here double, here void, return type is void, but here double. Here same thing is class name is same, but the remaining things are different. Class name is same, but the signature is different. These type of method concepts are known as method overloading. Let us see this one. Here I am printing the a value. Here I am printing the ab values. So here I am printing the a value and I am calculating the a into a value. So this is the demo. Method name is demo. Same method name, same method name, same method name I am using. So this is called as method overloading. So in the main class, so this is the main class, main method, and then I am creating an object. I am creating an object of class overload, and then I'm declaring some variable result, and then I am using the constructor obj.demo. Demo is the method name. Demo 10. I am passing the single variable. obj.demo. I am passing the 2 variables 10, 20. Next third obj.demo. I am passing the single parameter, but the return type is double 5.5. The result is stored in the result variable, and I am printing the result. So here I have used the three different methods, same name, demo method. In this case, we have passed the single argument. In the second one, we have passed the two arguments. The third one, we have passed the double parameter. So this type of methods are mechanisms are known as method overloading. Method has the same name, but the signature is different. So these type of things are known as method overloading. Let us see the output. Java C method overloading Java. See the output. So in the first case, A value is printed 10. Second, A and B values are printed 10, 20. Third one, A value is printed as well as output is printed 30.25. 5.5 into 5.5, 30.25. So this is the method overloading. Method, same method name, but the parameter list and signature is different. So these type of things are called as method overloading. So this is the fourth exercise. So we have completed the 4 exercises. First one, second one, third one, fourth one. So up to this, we have completed the exercises, lab exercises, 4 exercises. So in the next class, while coming to the next class, you have to complete the observations. You have to run these programs in your systems. Systems are online compilers. And you write the output in the observations. Up to 4 programs. Up to exercise 4. Then after completing all the programs, you can have the lab record. So all the programs are placed in the Edmodo group. You can, if you have any doubts, you can refer the Edmodo group. So this is all about the lab cycles, lab programs. 4 exercises are completed. Remaining we will see in the next coming sessions. So this is all about the lab exercises. In the next class, we will complete the remaining things. Inheritance concepts, exception handling concepts, packages, and then runtime polymorphisms. So, and threads, it will be in the coming sessions, we will complete all these things. And then while coming to the theory, so we're discussing the string handlings. So tomorrow we'll complete the strings, and then Saturday we will start the threads concept, multi-threading. So any doubts? So okay, thank you. We'll continue in the next class.